Alright, we're back with Magical Girl Raising Project Black. This is the start of the next arc of the series. It seems to be taking more of a Joker's Aces Queens approach, where it's a trilogy with black, then white, then red. Um, the structure of the volumes, though, is a little bit odd because after this, we're kind of jumping ship from this new set of characters down here. And we're going to break down instead, which apparently involves Mana and Mei and Nanako-san and all of them. Maybe during the events of Joker's slash Aces, um, but that should be an interesting read. In terms of what happened during Black, so we get it's interesting, right? It feels almost like a retake of Limited, yet paced like the Joker's Aces Queens trilogy, right? So all of the new characters, almost all of them, are middle schoolers, right? And you think of like the middle school group from Limited, and it kind of calls back to that. But the premise of this arc is that the Puck Puck faction had a backup plan for what Puck Puck was doing with her whole machine. Um, and it involved raising magical girls to a specific magical girl middle school because Puck Puck became a pancake and was flattened and died. Um, all the factions of the magical kingdom and all the departments kind of threw their hand into this middle school, and it's this pseudo political battleground with all of these middle school age magical girls being the pawns, right? They're all trying to do certain things based on what factions they're from and what their orders are. And it's interesting because there's a lot of tension in this volume, and it does build up to some sort of climax in like the last 10% of the book, 15% of the book. And the stakes are almost raised a few times. But the book ends with no one dying. There's some grievous injuries, but no one is dead yet. And then Asari Endo, of course, in the afterword, goes ahead and says, "Yeah, so in white, people will die, so don't get used to this." Not directly, but heavily implied, right? So, as is expected, we're gonna run down through the characters here. I'll give my impressions. I have a feeling these will be very subject to change as we get into white and red, depending on what happens. So let's just get into it. First is Miss Rill, who can change her body into different metals. Her design is really neat. It's kind of like it reminds me of a little bit of a liquid metal slime from Dragon Quest, if you are aware. That kind of like gooey and drapey body, but there's also solidity to it. Um, in terms of her ability, it's pretty neat, and I like the uniqueness of her design. As a character, she was alright. I mean, she's fundamentally more than like Lady Proud, but I don't know if I like her more than Magical Daisy at this point. I mean, she's a fine enough support character. I don't really think we'll get the focus on her. Her ability is pretty neat, and that's all I have to say really for her. I don't particularly dislike her or anything, but she's neat. Rappy Tape is much the same. Her design, her first of all, fighting in this design must be crazy because you've got a giant tape thing, right? That she's holding, like a giant roll of tape, and then all of the clothing on her body is just tape. So she ends up being one of the more exposed designs, and it is maybe it's actually better for fighting, but in terms of a casual setting, it's weird. And her headpiece is actually pretty cool and matches her hairstyle. Despite like the weirdness of her tape design, I actually really like it. Because of that, she's gonna go above Miss Real. She was fighting real hard in the climax. Just to give some context, the climax gives the subtitle rather, to the book Black. The homunculi that we've seen since Deluge's arc and Joker's, and they've basically evolved into a homunculi that can mimic magical girls. So you get all these horrendous magical girls: Homunculi Pukin, Homunculi Cranberry, Homunculi Flame Flamey, Homunculi Emimile Halberd, which is like a new evil magical girl that Kalkuro was teaching about. Um, who else? Like something lace, which I don't. There's a lot of like miscellaneous, evil magical girls that the homunculi take form of. Um, and there's this whole conspiracy kind of thing at the end that causes them to act like that and attack the girls. But it's everyone working as a team in the end, thankfully, despite all their differences, to fight their hardest and make sure everyone survives. And they constantly describe the homunculi as jet black with their body, and that's where I'm assuming the name of the book comes from. But I don't know where I was going with that. Oh yeah, so Rappy Tape was fighting the homunculi pretty desperately on her own once her team kind of fell apart, and we get her perspective on that, and it was pretty neat seeing her jumping around and all that. The one with the super zoomed in face, funnily enough, is Drill Dory. So this is really interesting because you have Armor Arlie, who is one of the students in this arc, and then you have Drill Dory, who is clearly her sister in and out of Magical Girl transformation, or some sort of relation, right? But Armor Arlie isn't referred to as Armor Arlie. It's Arc Arlie, and we actually see her with her visor up. Her face, which it's not on this tier list, but her face is very similar to Drill Dory here. She just has a red heart on her forehead and then a red swirl in her heart part of the hair. And I'm scrolling down, and this is clearly Blade Brenda and Canon Catherine, right? So there's these four are some sort of breed of artificial magical girls in the same sense that the princesses were, right? And what's interesting too is that there's another princess in Princess Lightning right here. So the artificial magical girls, the things that Piffle and Lapis the First started, it's a becoming a business, and it's not even necessarily the Osk faction who is known for engineering specific magical girls. It's not even them that's doing it. It's I think the Magical Girl Resources Department, which I don't know, it's just interesting. The implications of Dory's existence is crazy because Dory doesn't know Arlie and Arlie doesn't know Dory. Arlie only sees these two as her sisters, and I'm not ranking them yet because the fact that they have official art mean they're more important in a future book, so I'm leaving them there for now. Um, but yeah, just the implication is pretty neat. I mean, these two are a pair. We learn that the reason why Arlie could not communicate with Shadow Gale, excuse me, Shadow Gale is because she's foreign. It seems they describe their language as chirping language. I'm not really sure what dialect that would be, but based on the human art, they have both of these have the darkest skin in the series. So I'm going to assume it's some sort of native language to India, Africa, or whatever. Which we've had Pukin and Sonia Bean from England, so having more of the western side of the east side of the world is pretty neat. You know, diversity. You love to see it. So, yeah. I'm very interested to know the origins of the ABCD artificial girls for sure. Because they're all the same, or maybe they were just sisters separated at birth. I feel like at one point they did mention they were artificial, right? In lieu of like Deluge and Tempest and all of them. But just out of intrigue, these two, they're staying where they are in their stand skill level for now. Um, Drill Dory has a drill that can dig through anything and everything. So I'm thinking Gurren Lagann, this drill will reach the heavens. And orange is my favorite color, so having it be her accent. I mean, she might be my favorite of the ABCDs in design. Yeah. So I mean, I like her. She's pretty neat. Are you fundamentally putting her above like Melville and Mass Wonder when she doesn't have much is kind of crazy. But bias. What can I say? Next is Lillian, I believe, is her name. Yes, classical Lillian. So this is a weird one, right? Because she knits whatever she pleases with her magic knitting machine. I don't quite understand her ability. I mean, it's used in tandem with Kumi Kumi down here to make an armor because Kumi Kumi can break and reform materials with her pickaxe. But her fighting style reminds me of Filru and like Styler Mimi. I just don't know how to feel about her. Like she's there, you know. She's a bee, um, and she fights and it's neat, and she has more confidence as a magical girl through Kumi Kumi's observation. At least we see that she has more confidence as a magical girl and can act as a mediator within group two because of that, but only while she's a magical girl. So I mean, her design is pretty. Her hair is has like cyan highlights. Um, yeah, she's pretty fun in terms of her design, and I want to see more of her in white and red for sure. There's there's something about her within, right, that's making her that way, that difference between her human and her magical girl self. I want to know the origin of that. Why does she feel more confident as a magical girl? Is it simply because of the power, or is there a deeper meaning? So, in terms of intrigue, she's one of the ones that is up there for me. Next up, we have Sally Raven, I believe. Yes, Sally Raven is part of Group 3. She can create crow familiars. What's really interesting about Sally Raven to me is, well, first, she's very identifiable with her speech because she really draws out her yeah. So she'll say yeah with like seven H's. She'll be like, wow, this coffee is totally cool. Yeah. So, she, the Desu no, just as it would work on Melville or Magicaloid, would work on her, is basically all I'm saying. Um, she's cool. I mean, her crow familiars, we haven't seen the true extent of what she's done, but she's a bit clever. She's reached out to Shuke Prains in terms of just her worry about Deco and Ronnie and Princess Lightning and everything like that. And what's really interesting about her, and I don't want to forget this, is that she's a tentative cutie healer. So she might be in an in-universe anime as Cutie Healer Raven, which is funny because her name is Sally Raven, or Cutie Healer Raven, but she creates crow familiars. She is linked to the PR department of Magical Girls, like Magical Daisy was. Hence the whole anime and all that. But her design is really pretty. Like, her skirt, excluding the hem of the skirt, is see-through. So you have like a veil for her legs and then almost like a flamenco style hem for the skirt. She has a pretty unique hat which is styled both at the same time as a raven beak and a crow wing, and she got like jewels all over her arms and her skirt and hat and everything. So her design is busy, but it flows really well. um I quite like her too. I think more than right. Design wise, she's pretty cool, and I like her yeah thing. So she also seems more clever than she leads on, right? Actually, maybe more than Glacian, I would say. More than Yunoyo. Went to prison. Are you Funny Trick? No, Funny Trick has a little more at this moment, so you'll go there, Sally Raven. Shuke Prains is alright. She's reminds me of Mana, where she has a sour attitude. She's like Mana and Swim Swim combined, right? You got a swimming motif, but you got a sour attitude and a petite design. Her floaties are pretty funny. She has bear ears, but the bear ears are covered with like floaties. You can see it here, right? So she's a bear, a swimmer. Her water gun can shoot out any liquid like acid rain, for example, or lubricant, for example, to speed up stuff. So it's only in a mist, though, so it is a little limited in what she can do. But I like her design. I feel like she has a lot of potential because she's a little cynical and she realizes that she's isolated because of her attitude, but chooses to maintain that attitude because it suits her current lifestyle and she just doesn't want to get involved with stuff. She's a loner by circumstance because she's the only for hire magical girl. I forget which department off the top of my head hired her, but they needed someone middle school age who could infiltrate and follow orders, and she was fitting the bill. So she was hired, and there she is. Intrigue wise, she's about Sally Raven level, and perhaps that's fitting because they do have that heart to heart a little bit at the cafe. uh, and Shuke Prange actually is forced to learn hours of cutie healer information. You see, Sally Raven is a real big fan of it, so I find it pretty funny that I hope they become friends. If they both survive, they probably won't. But if they do both survive, I would like them to become friends. I think there is potential there for Shuke Prange to soften up, and who knows if Sally Raven becomes cutie healer Raven, maybe that kind of brashness could play off of her, and Shuke Prange could become, I don't know, cutie healer water gun or something. I don't know. I'm not in the magical girl PR department, okay? So I can't really say what her cutie healer name would be. Next up is a couple of interesting people, also in group 3. Rani is the goldfish looking one. She can connect one door to another, and the definition of door is very loose. Any opening, whether it be through branches or leaves or like a donut. I mean, donut's not an example used, but if it can even loosely be considered a door, she can walk through it and appear somewhere else. In terms of design, this is one of my favorites. That kind of flowing beta fish, goldfish look to her is really, really like cute and kind of elegant in a way too. And then the one next to her is Diko Nadaku Noin, or just Diko. Diko can momentarily disappear. These two are working under the first lapis lazuli, and interestingly enough, they were candidates to be the third lapis lazuli, which gives us this more info about Bluebell Candy and even the second Blue Comet. And the first here, there's a whole process to inherit the name, and we were already aware that there was training, but not more than one candidate at each time. So in terms of Rani, she's the one that gets the most injured fighting the homunculi, and Snow White saves her as she's bleeding out. So good job, Snow White, but also maybe not good job, Snow White, and that's Rani. Rani is a bit vain. She's a bit jealous of Bluebell for being the third. She indirectly wants Bluebell to pass away so she can become Lapis Lazuli the fourth. So Rani, you're kind of crazy for that. And she kind of hypes herself up. I can be Lapis Lazuli. I have the guts and the moves and the training and the willpower to be Lapis Lazuli the fourth. And she notices Deco later on in the volume still continuing her training as Lapis Lazuli, even though they both failed candidates, and she realizes that she didn't put as much effort as she could have been, and yet you could still sense a little bit of that vainness in her. I actually do like her a fair bit. Her design and her ability are really fun. It has that circumstantial flair, right, that Sormi does, but it was used a little less, and Stanchka's a little cooler. You'll go bottom of A, I think. So I want more from her. I want her to either drown in that jealousy or grow out of it in the following volumes, especially now that she's humbled a little bit and is in the hospital. Deco's going right next to her, just because I do consider them a bit of a pair. Deco can momentarily disappear, and she kind of has like that creepy look under her hood, but her design is real flowy. She has a third eye on her chest, which is like secured by belts and stuff. Her design's real fun, simple but fun. I like the feathers on her hood too, and just like within her hood. Um, so Deco is more diligent, and you can tell that the first lapis lazuli likes Deco more than Ronnie because Deco is the one that gets the orders and it conveys it. So Deco is, if anyone's gonna become the fourth, I think it's gonna be Deco. Um, but I guess we'll see how that goes, right? Deco, you just there because you're pretty neat. You're a good fighter. You entertained Memphis when she was messing with you, and I feel like there's a lot more to you, and I want your perspective in white. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, this is the row of tentative A's from this volume, I suppose. But yeah, keep on doing what you're doing. Princess Lightning. So this is another of the Princess series, and she also has luxury mode like Deluge. You can tell this is a remnant of Piffle's research, whether it was spread by Lapis Lazuli, whether it be the first or the third, or just part of Piffle's wish. I'm not sure, but her design is really cool. There's this Japanese god that has taiko drums maybe or cymbals behind them, floating behind them, that conveys or summons thunder and lightning, and you see it in a lot of Japanese media too. Like there's that one guy in One Piece. I don't know his name. I don't avidly watch One Piece, but there's that one guy that has that same kind of style with the drums in the back that couldn't damage Luffy or something because Luffy is made out of rubber. If you know that example, that works. Another example I know of is Kirby. Zan Partizan is a wielder of lightning and has that same drums in the back. Um, it's just a running theme with electrical traditional characters, right? At least in Japanese media or stuff inspired by it. But in terms of the rest of her design, the color palette is super cool. That kind of black, purple, yellow, and it's all like a gradient and blending into each other. And her tiara, and there's like it's hard to see here, but there's lightning cracks within her hair. So the yellow tips of her hair are like lightning strikes going up into her bangs and into the full parts of her hair. Her design is honestly my favorite princess design over Quake, over Tempest, over Inferno, and over Deluge. She's really intriguing. She's also going into A. She's kind of playful in just what she does and her actions, but I don't know what her goal is. So she's tentative A, and I mean I don't have much to say. Her fight with the next one, Thunder General Adelheid, is really cool. Speaking of Thunder General Adelheid, if the name didn't give it away, she is a graduate of the Archfiend Cram School, which we also learn no longer exists because Pam has passed away. Thank you, Rainpal, for ruining everything. How could you? But Adelheid's really cool. I actually like her, not tentatively A, just as an A. She's almost Utakata level. Um, yeah, cool. She's cooler than Utakata though. But Firu has that emotional weight. So she's southern, I think. She has a southern accent. Her design is just as cool. It also has a lightning motif, but she doesn't use lightning. She can reuse absorbed energy, whether that's kinetic energy, thermal energy, lightning. I guess that's electrical energy. She's just got a really intense look to her, like a commander with her flowing cape. She fights a lot in the book. I really like that she's a cram school student in middle school, by the way, and is quite capable. And she's out of the cram school people that we've seen. She's the most level headed. She doesn't want unnecessary fights. She doesn't want to have a thirst for battle for no reason. She's actually quite friendly and manageable and caring. Um, Despite her intense look, because look at her. Her eyes are really intense, and her costume, which you can't see the full thing here, is really intense. She has one of the coolest designs in the series for sure. Um, but yeah, she's pretty great. I'm waiting for that emotional beat to bump her up, and I feel like it's gonna come in white. So, Thunder General Adelheid is really great. Next up is Kumi Kumi. I really like Kumi Kumi. She's the type of person that has to process her words a whole bunch before she speaks it. So she's slow, but very observant and methodical. So she's trying to bring harmony within Group 2, and she's just trying to do her best. So Frederica, being Frederica, also contacts her at some point, invades her home, says, "Welcome home," drinks her tea, and tells Kumi Kumi to do something. We don't know what that something is yet. But I will say, despite that, her design is super cute. You got almost like a metallic blouse and metallic boots with a weirdly decorated pickaxe, I might say. And then her little headdress with the pink and blue, like, and red for her face, and just the accents. Yeah, really cool design. We see a lot of her perspective, just trying to understand how Kana acts, how Mephis acts, how Adelheid acts. There's a lot of Group 2 that we delve into, and it's because of her that we know that there is a difference with Classical Lillian between her two forms. She's one of the strongest ones for sure, so she's going to go right above Adelheid just because she has a lot of that more emotional weight, and she also is emotional herself because when Kana almost died, she, you know, was panicking and crying and stuff like that. Also, speaking of all that, her armor thing, which she worked on for like months, is just gone now, which is unfortunate, but it was cool while it did last. Sonia being Copy just had to ruin everything for her, but I'm also just noticing that the back of her is she's almost like a wind up toy, I think. In the back. I don't know if that's like just a decoration or not, but she seems like a wind up toy, and her position being a little stiff. And actually her design is hitting a whole lot more now that I think about it. A wind up toy, which is why she has all those sharp edges and stiff posture, and why she takes time to answer any questions or organize her thoughts about the state of Group 2. She's a wind-up toy. That's super cute. I really like that. Kumi Kumi, I just got another surprise right here and now. I really liked Kumi Kumi. I appreciated her perspective a whole bunch. Kaokoro. So, Kaokoro is pretty much the Kuru Kuru Hime of this arc. The teacher of a bunch of middle schoolers who cannot manage them and is under pressure. Fun fact, she's, at least at this point, the only mage who is also a magical girl. So we see this a lot of her internal struggle with dealing with Halna, with dealing with Kana, with dealing with Mephis, and all those problems that come up at the middle school, and teaching and everything. She's very entertaining as a down to earth human teacher perspective. She is Kurukuru Hime, but still alive at this point. Her design is really cute. She's got like a lot of frilly stuff It's like if someone took their pet cat, right? It looks like she's a cat with those ears, or like a ferret or something. It's someone took their pet, did their hair, right? They grew the hair, curled their hair up, and then added plushies around them, and like hair clips, fluffy stuff, fluffy decorations. She's so fluffy, and she has a cage skirt, and I don't know what it is about cage skirts, but I love them in designs. So bonus points, Calcoro. Her ability is that she calculates and fights using her magic abacus. It's a little hard to see here, but she has a pretty big abacus that's like 3/4 of her height, and she calculates to practically instantaneously whatever values that she can. And then, see, this is what I love about Magical Girl Raising Project, and I'll get into this a bit, but she uses her abacus as a skateboard to rush to help the students once the homunculi go crazy. And that, like, who thinks of that, right? An abacus as a skateboard, but that's brilliant. Like, the abilities. I think Magical Girl Racing Project as a series is so clever in how it uses the abilities of all of its characters. Things that you would think are limited or overpowered or whatever are used in such ways where you're like, oh, I didn't even think that it could be used like that. Rainpow is a good example for me, a pretty simple and obvious example. Her ability is listed to be the ability to make rainbow bridges. We never know the specifics, right? We don't know that they're sharp and can be used as weapons, or that there's a delay in when she's firing them and then she can only fire them in a straight line. The previews that you get on the first 3 pages of each volume, right, where they say what these abilities are, undersell the abilities on purpose because they give you a low expectation and then they thoroughly describe each of the girls' abilities when they're using them, and use them in such creative ways that you just have to go, wow. I think of Piffle in her spinning wheelchair during Queens. I think of Ripple fighting Calamity Mary and fighting Rain Pal. I think of Rianetta puppeting Genocycle's corpse. You know, I think of just Leth and how she used her ability. Archfiend Pam, her wings are crazy. Even Ranhi in this, and Stormy with their limited stuff is just, if the circumstances are right, anyone can go crazy. Glacian too, when before she blew up with a grenade. Just, there's so much intricacy in each ability and so much little branches that you can explore, and I really love that. Kumi Kumi can build a whole armor after using materials from tires and metals found in the trash after spending months on it, right? Kalkoro can skate and calculate the trajectory of her skating and this battle while moving in a rush to help the students at the same time. Premium Sachiko is her contract and how it was warped with Puck Puck's ability. Ruler's limitation and how she uses her ability, and Mei Mei's complete versatility. There's just, I think I just hit my mic, sorry. There's just a whole bunch of stuff to explore with just the abilities alone, and the fact that they're used in a variety of ways, and at least for me personally, where I could have never seen it like that from a surface glance, is really cool. So props to you, Asari Endo, for that. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but Kalkoro is really neat. I hope she's doing okay. Mentally, she's kind of stressed to the max right now. But yeah, closely related is Halna Medi Melon. So this is a mage. We don't see her face, and going by this tier list, we don't ever see her face. I would like to see her face, as well as the first and twin dragons Panas, but whatever, I suppose. She's almost elfish in her appearance. She's really interesting because she's strict, but she like she has to manage all these factions invading the school that she's the principal of, right, or the manager of, and she's completely hands off, but strict in the weirdest ways. And Kalkoro is front lines taking the brunt of all that nonsense. Um, she's a bad person, I think, or at least a very self-centered person, but she was really entertaining. So she's gonna go under Kudokudo. Kudokudo, he may. She'll go above Nemuri. Um, yeah, maybe. Well, above Nemurine. So Nemurine, you were there. Do I put her above Lightning? Maybe. No, she was boosted by her interactions with Kana. I think she's. It's hard, right? Because she's in the background, but also very much present. So we'll put her there for now. At least it's easy to find her because she's just a block of text, right? But I really do want to see more of Halma. Um, Something about her was weird at the end. You would think that she caused the homunculi to release, but that almost seems too obvious in as an answer. So I don't want to go that route. But her strictness and just her general demeanor were pretty entertaining. Next up is Teddy Goodgrip. So this is the cover girl for this time. She's really cute. She's got a maid style with huge mittens, and she can grab anything with those magic mittens to a very violent degree if she so chooses, which is interesting. She's a squirrel girl too, or like a some sort of squirrel or chipmunk, and that's bonus points for me because it just adds to the cuteness of the design. In terms of like main girl pink ish design, right? We've had Snow White on the cover. We've had Pechka on the cover. Pechka. We've had Nanako-san on the covers, and Bluebell Candy is also that kind of pinkish. Teddy Goodgrip might be like second to Snow White in terms of how much I really like just that kind of standard pink magical girl. You know, obviously she has her own motif with the like the server, the waitress, but yeah, Teddy is one of the main characters, and she's very connected to Mephis. Teddy and Mephis were childhood friends. They took the magical girl exam together and both passed, so there's that. But they have bad blood between them now, so, which is unfortunate. Teddy is very upfront and tries to be honest with herself. Right, she's the class representative. She she watched, or rather, she caused indirectly for her mother to die from like stress and just her mother was weak and they got into an argument and she never was able to apologize, that type of thing. So she lives alone and she's part of information resources department, I believe. She's the only one there, but she doesn't realize she's not really a part of it. They just recommended her, which means they had information on her. And there's something about, actually, hold on, I forgot. You are a character that is very closely related to Teddy here. Anyway, so Teddy is, how do I say, she's in the middle of all this, but there's very clearly a role that information resources, the information department, I just hit my mic again, sorry, the information department wants her to fulfill. She's not aware of it though, and I think she's being manipulated without her realizing. Teddy is awesome. She's Kumi Kumi level, I think. Is she better than Kumi Kumi? Um, that's a very hard choice. Both of the designs are really cool. Actually, I'm putting her above Top Pop, Prism Cherry, which means Kumi Kumi is by default there. Adelheid, cooler than Filru, so you'll go there. Yeah, I think I like Teddy a little more. She speaks with Misato. Misato's gonna get a B. Misato is a mage who works in the garden. It's very clear that Teddy is linked to the thing, and by extension Misato, that everyone's been trying to find. Multiple factions are trying to find the secret within the school, and that secret is the garden that Teddy walks through every day, and only she has access to it through Misato. So I fear for Teddy's life next volume because she's going to be the link that destroys everything, especially since she wants to take Memphis to that garden at Misato's advice. So I can't quite put into words just how I feel about Teddy's personality because it's kind of hard to verbalize it. Where she's very diligent. Maybe that's the word. She's very diligent because she knows her position and she knows how to maintain that diligence. So, yeah, I really liked her. Memphis, it was weird to me, right? I hated her like with a passion, almost premium Sachiko level, right? In the opposite way. Premium Sachiko was a whiny, wah wah, baby, oh, I don't want to do this and that. And, there's reasons, not to slander her completely. There's reasons she was outside of Puck Puck's control at that point. She realized what Puck Puck was trying to do. She was just a coward as a person and couldn't act upon it, so decided to run away. And then died. Memphis is way too quick to anger, foul-mouthed, consistently a problem for all of the students in the class, and doesn't really listen to her team. So, that can certainly give you a better understanding of her. Look at her. She's sticking her tongue out and winking. And her sweet words will corrupt your heart. That is, in fact, her ability. Mephistopheles is her full name. Her design is really cool. It's like an imp with a pretty gothic, I guess, dress. And she has like a sheep mask. And for some reason, she has a tail growing from her head, not her waist. And we know the color of her undergarments thanks to the girl next to her in storage. And it's mentioned multiple times as a way to anger her. So, good job, Kana, who is the girl next to her. I did grow to like Memphis a whole bunch more near the end of the book because of her relationship with Kana. Kana was forced to live with her because of Halna, and they realized that Kana is not aware of the modern world's forms of entertainment, so they kind of bond over that despite Memphis's foul mouth, and Memphis becomes more bearable there. And we just kind of hear more of her mindset later on in the book. So I grew to appreciate her a little more. Not Kumi Kumi level. She's under Adelheid. Filru is pretty great, as is Utakata, Lapusel. She's right there for now. Yeah. I want to see more of her. I want to see her relationship with Teddy healed or worsen. I'm not sure which will be better for my heart. And I want her to become true friends with Kana, which is a dangerous want, I suppose, but it's something I want anyway. And then finally, well, not finally, actually, we'll get to Kana in a bit. I'll save one of the new girls for last. Let's just talk about who else appeared. We talked about Arlie. Snow White and Deluge are almost like Shadow Gales and the ABC girls. ABC being Arlie, Catherine, and Brenda. They're almost like their mothers, like two mothers raising 4 children, I guess, right? Because Arlie and the other 2 can't really communicate well, and you can tell they have a very young and childish mindset. And then Shadowgale is mind broken. The only mention of Shadowgale that we get this volume is, in fact, that they leave her to her own devices, and she stays transformed as a magical girl, and all she does is tinker with machines. Then they don't bother her. I don't know if that's out of concern for her. I'm hoping that Arlie and Shadow Gale still play that video game. She needs some form of mental healing, whether it's the video games or doing the machines or what. But I really do need Shadow Gale to heal mentally. So I hope she's slowly recovering through that. Even if she just fundamentally cannot remember most of her memories because Piffle was associated with them. Because Piffle was associated with them, they're gone, right? So the Delusion Snow White team up is really appreciated. Uluru also appeared very briefly and said one line. So they were all very brief appearances. And Snow White at the end transfers into the middle school class for the next volume being White, which is interesting. I guess that's why the next one is called White, because Snow White is there, maybe. Her art in this book, Ruler is not here. She's actually with a broom, because her, Delusion, and the three girls were cleaning a shrine and a town, because they're magical girls and they do help the people, you know. And she has a very melancholy look on her face, and she typically does have a melancholy look, but it's with a little bit of anger, a little bit of drive. Here, it's full melancholy, full blank. And we also see that in the final art for this book, where she's as in her human form, Koyuki next to Kalkoro's human form. And we see that same blankness. And I believe it's from Teddy's perspective, or Kumi's perspective, that we see Snow White get transferred in as the lead up to the next book. And they just get that feeling that she's quite mature for her age, and she's had to be because of all the stuff that she's gone through. And again, it just makes me feel for Snow White, you know. It's just rough. Now this is gonna be another doozy. All right, just hear me out. Kana is absolutely amazing. She is here. No, she's here. Yeah, I'm pretty surprised myself, honestly, that such a character has jumped out at me. Kana is amazing. So she's a prisoner, another prisoner freed by Frederica. So that's to tell you that she's quite dangerous. But let me just read her ability. Ask her a question and she'll know the answer. Interesting, right? She doesn't seem like her personality is the same. She just does not have a lot of her key memories in relation to what she did in the past that caused her to be a prisoner, right? But there's a full mix here of unintentional bluntness and a desire to learn about her situation while being respectful to everyone around her. So she doesn't want to use her ability because it can be seen as disrespectful. She'll ask a question to someone and then she'll just get the answer. Or someone will ask a question to her and she'll just get the answer. It's a breach of privacy. And something tells me that breach of privacy unintentionally got her in prison. Or maybe she was so wrapped up in her own ability in the past that she became a prisoner. And now with those memories gone, she's kind of at ground zero, reset, let's try this all over again, right? Her design is simple, and that's because that's not her magical girl outfit. It's a school uniform. She was, in fact, without her outfit when Frederica freed her. So Frederica just gave her a uniform. And she rips up the uniform at the skirt and I think the sleeves a little bit just to make it easier to move around in. So people think she's a delinquent, when she's not. Mephis tries to get stuff out of her, but they end up bonding instead, you know. Kumi grows to care about Kana, and you can see that especially at the end. Kana's not really a fighter, she's a question asker. And what we do know, at least from her interactions with Mephis, is that she's very clearly not from a modern era. She's like almost, I wouldn't say feudal, right? But in an era where technology didn't really exist that well and manga was not widespread. So a fair bit back, and we don't know her human body age. She seems a little more mature than the middle schoolers, so she might be high school, university, a full adult maybe, but we don't know because she never detransforms, and she only does that because she heard from years ago that the Archfiend Cram School said to never detransform. She is quite literally a sponge. Any information she takes in, she takes it face value and doesn't let go of it. So she's very careful in not trying to anger anyone, so much so that she doesn't ask for a pencil until it's given to her. And that's why she's holding a pencil in her art, actually. And because she's a sponge, she soaks up Mephis's favorite manga, which is a delinquent manga. And the next time we see her, she's bluntly, like with no emotion, quoting this delinquent manga, which she admitted she was getting addicted to. And she's got like a chain around her neck in the art, not her neck, like the collar of her button up part. Excuse me, the jacket of her school uniform, and her hair, which was very loose and messy, is still loose and messy, but some parts are tied into buns with little ponytails coming off of it because of that same delinquent manga. So she's very, I guess, like Swim Swim above her. She's very impressionable. She takes everything at face value. She's trying to learn about her current situation while being as respectful as possible. She doesn't want to offend anyone, even though she does that unintentionally. And she's just trying to settle in and make friends as a member of the magical girl class. And I find that really entertaining. The way her perspective is written is almost like to the point and informative, and just explores her confusion and her earnestness in trying to grow and learn. In that sense, maybe that's why I like her so much. She reminds me of May. If May had respect, May doesn't care. May is a tortoise. May will poop on your lawn. Okay, that was out of pocket. But I mean, as a tortoise, what is a tortoise gonna do, right? But point is, Kana is really entertaining, and when she quote unquote died, right? So she was like the first to die. She got scooped up in a homunculized magic that was mimicking like Bella Lace, I think, was a magical girl that drained people of their life or something, or their desires. And I was asking Frederica to be a real one. She's been a real one twice. Every other time she is the opposite. But she has been a real one twice in this series. The first time was when she saved Ripple's life. We're going to ignore the brainwashing for now. The second time was when she saved Prism Cherry's life. And I was like, Frederica. If you're a real one, you'll triple dip and you'll save Kana. And you'll make her last at least another half volume. And she did. She has plans for Kana. Kana doesn't know what her plans are. Kana doesn't even have contact with Frederica, which means Frederica knows something about Kana that Kana's going to do unintentionally, and that's going to break my heart because Kana is such like a cinnamon roll in her current incarnation, in her current self. She's like, she needs to be protected, and she's actually quite helpful in physical ability, not fighting, physical ability, and just her willingness to assist and become friends with everyone. That does land her into trouble with Halna a little bit, and Kalkoro and what they think about her. She's just doing her best, and I hope Kana continues to do her best. I really like her. The design being simple reminds me of Snow White actually a little bit. So I do appreciate that. And all I can say is very entertaining. What can I say? I mean, she was very entertaining. No one died this volume. There was a few close ones there, but we were spared this time, which means we're gonna get hit twice as hard in White. But I actually thoroughly enjoyed this. This, I think, was a better incarnation of what Limited was going for, only because, right? Because Limited was like all these departments or like moving groups in a closed space trying to do what they wanted to do, right? Whether that be the witches, Federica and the group, or whether that be the Department of Diplomacy, Magical Girl Resources, whatever. And also with introducing a bunch of middle schoolers, right? Black does it better because they're already magical girls, and we already know about these departments more, right? So we get more of not necessarily, oh wow, I'm a magical girl and this and that. We get more of just their interactions and the tension. What's really good about this volume is the tension and what each character thinks of each character, because they see each other every day and they're forced to be at least somewhat sociable with each other, right? I mean, it's a school environment. So it's a very different change of pace, and that's perhaps why all of them survived this time. I'm wondering how it's going to distort in white and red, but for what we did get, it was really a nice change of pace. And I hope to see these characters grow, and not wilt. But we know that some will wilt. That's just simply how things go, right? So yeah, Kana, you did good becoming an immediate S there. I know, kind of crazy there on my end, but in what's coming next is a bit odd. I did mention it a bit before, but Breakdown is next. I believe Breakdown are like these characters down here. Not these two. Maybe they're in Breakdown 2 or something. I don't know. They're kind of scattered at this point. But as you can see, we're getting pretty close to the end, which, I mean, we have, what, 4 volumes left? So we have, is it? We have Breakdown 1 and 2, white and red. That might be it. Who knows? I could be missing like a side volume or something. But yeah, great volume. I was glad to get a whole new set of characters to rank. It was a nice refresher after the trilogy. And we're going to be taking a break from Black because we're going to go into Breakdown. But that's fine because Mana is probably going to jump into S with May. Let's see if Nanako-san does the same, because I know those three are in Breakdown. So I'm really hoping for some bonding between those three and that they become a found family. I think I hit my mic again. Anyway, that they become a found family and just really connect. And who knows, if Breakdown breaks it down, you might see me breaking it down in happiness. For everyone's eyes, though, it's perhaps a little bit better if that just simply remains in my head, right? We'll see you next time.